Welcome to the Temple College EMS Professions program. This lecture will introduce you to the concept of academic integrity and will explain the expectations of the program with regard to academic integrity. What is academic integrity? Well, dictionary.com defines integrity as adherence to moral and ethical principles, soundness of moral character, or honesty. In other words, academic integrity means ensuring that your schoolwork represents your knowledge and abilities, your own ideas, and your own creative work. But how does that affect us practically? The first topic I will address is plagiarism. Plagiarism is an academic integrity violation that involves claiming someone else's work as your own. This violation usually occurs in writing, but can occur any time someone else's work is copied, quoted, or summarized inappropriately, or without appropriate attribution of a source via citations. Let's take a closer look at plagiarism. When you're involved in your academic work, pay attention to how you are using references and resources. A majority of your assignments in this program will require you to reference some sort of book, website, journal article, or other resource. For each assignment, follow your instructor's expectations for how to use and whether or not you will need to formally cite these resources. Regardless of whether or not you need to provide a list of resources or citations, the work that you turn in should be your own work. Do not copy someone else's work, whether a website, textbook, or the work of a peer. If you do copy something word for word, be sure to give credit as appropriate and use quotation marks. I've mentioned the need to give credit for other people's work, but how is that done, and when does it need to be done? In an academic setting, credit for someone else's work is given through a citation. A citation is simply a notation of the reference that you used for a particular piece of information. Now let's assume for the moment that your instructor has requested that you use formal citations for your assignment. When, where, and how do you need to note your sources? Let's start by discussing when you do not need to use a citation. If you reference something that is considered common knowledge in your field, or when something is written by you and is an expression of your own ideas, opinions, or conclusions, you probably don't need a citation. But what exactly is common knowledge? Well, one example of common knowledge is shown here, suggesting that CPR be started when someone is found to be pulseless and apneic is generally considered common knowledge in the field of EMS. However, this may not be considered common knowledge if you were writing an English paper. Common knowledge can be tricky sometimes, so it's always best to err on the side of a citation. So when do you need a citation? Well, you will need to cite a reference whenever you use any sort of statistic, data, or numbers obtained by someone other than you, when you reference someone else's conclusion, when you directly quote or paraphrase someone else, and when you reference a fact, figure, or other piece of information that is not considered common knowledge. A good rule of thumb is that if you refer to something other than your own brain, you should use a citation. Now we understand when to use a citation, but how do we actually use a citation? Let's again assume that your instructor has requested that you use formal citations on an assignment. You have found a statistic that the population of the city of Temple is 67,188, and you found this using Google's public data. Because you have utilized a source, in this case the Google public data website, to find a piece of information, you must cite your source with a citation. You can see in the example here that a reference is included next to the text, right here. And the web page is listed at the end of the assignment in a section titled Works Cited, right here. This is a basic example of a citation. The method by which you will cite sources depends on the particular style requested by your instructor. Common styles are the MLA, or Modern Language Association style, or the APA, or American Psychiatric Association style. When you are working on an assignment that requires formal citations, please refer to either a book, such as the MLA Style Manual, or a valid website, such as the Purdue Online Writing Lab or the Purdue OWL, for exact instructions on how to appropriately cite references. The web address for the Purdue OWL is located at the end of this presentation, and this website includes examples of appropriate citations and appropriate formatting for quoting, paraphrasing, and referencing. Hopefully you now have a better idea of how to reference your sources appropriately. Now I'm going to move on to another violation of academic integrity: cheating. Cheating is acting in a manner so as to gain an unfair advantage, and cheating can take many forms, including those listed on the slide. One good way to prevent concerns for yourself regarding cheating is to set yourself up to keep from being accused of cheating. First, do not sit near any members of your study group. If you have studied with someone, it's possible and understandable that your answers may be similar. However, if you're sitting near enough to those individuals that it could be possible for you to see their test, it may appear as though you are cheating. Second, do not wear a hat, heavy coat, or other clothing in which you could hide unauthorized materials. Leave your bags and backpacks outside of the testing room, or place them at the front of the room where they cannot be accessed during the exam. Third, if you must look around, try looking up at the ceiling rather than looking around the room. Not only does this keep you from inadvertently glancing at another student's exam, but it also provides a blank space where you can visualize the question and your answer. Lastly, do not discuss an exam with your peers. Even words such as "that was an easy test" can give your peers an advantage if they have not yet taken the exam. You will be able to discuss the exam after all the students have taken it. Other, more serious violations of academic integrity exist and include collaborative cheating, bribery, alteration of academic records, and repeated violations of basic violations of academic integrity. Please take some time to read through the Temple College Student Handbook for more information about academic integrity, including other types of violations, consequences for violations, and the process associated with an accusation of an academic integrity violation. The EMS profession's departmental expectations regarding academic integrity include the following. First, appropriately reference your work according to your instructor's expectations. Second, submit your own work on all assignments and exams. If you are working with others, make sure that the answers are stated in your own words. Third, violations of academic integrity are taken seriously. If you witness a violation of academic integrity, please report it to your instructor. Additionally, if you have committed a violation of academic integrity and wish to report yourself, you may do so. The consequences for self-reporting are much likely to be less severe than violations caught by an instructor. Students at Temple College are expected to abide by the honor code that is implicit upon your acceptance into the college. The honor code reads, "On my honor as a student, I have neither given nor received unauthorized aid on this assignment or exam." Each assignment and exam shall be completed under this honor code. Thank you for taking the time to learn about academic integrity. There will be a quiz in D2L that you will need to complete. You will need to make a 100 on this quiz, and you will want to refer to the Purdue OWL and the Temple College Student Handbook for this assignment. You may also use any other resources you would like to in order to complete this quiz. If you have further questions about academic integrity, please contact your course instructor. Here's some information on the references used to complete this presentation. The link to the Purdue OWL is the link on the very bottom of the screen.